Doctor. Here he is, your favorite, Dr. Marty Fox from Louisville. And we're going to do this review of the O'Reilly interview. He volunteered. I said, let's do an in-depth analysis. And Dr. Marty said, I'll do it. Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Listen, we would love to have dinner with you at CPAC, but that's the weekend we're celebrating Ruth's dad's 100th birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
Something that may not be possible under Obamacare.
I understand.
And we wanted to come to your Reagan speech. I watched it real time in a hotel room in Baltimore. We had to be at a wedding.
Thank you.
The laugh line was great. Speaking in the second person was really interesting because it gave us a sense of your relationship with Reagan. Yeah. It almost made it feel like he was there. I think you're the only person who could have given that speech.
You're very kind.
I don't think anybody else could have done that. And if you use epistrophe, does that mean you're an epistrophalian?
I don't know, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want to know what that means.
I don't know. Look, I went through this interview very carefully. Yes. I couldn't find any detailed analysis from anyone.
I agree.
I thought O'Reilly was walking the line between no nonsense and triggering an audit. And I think he did a great job of asking tough questions. Obama did a great job of not answering them. Some people call this the nailing the Jell-O interview.
Yeah. Okay.
Obama did a great job. O'Reilly did a great job of not following up. And we selected some audio to illustrate this.
Good. Here we go. Cut number one.
We've got 3 million people signed up so far. We're about a month behind of where we anticipated we wanted to be. We've got over 6 million people who've signed up for Medicaid. Yeah. We've got 3 million young people under the age of 26 who are signed up on their parents' plan. And so what we're constantly figuring out is how do we continue to improve it? How do we make sure that the folks who don't have health insurance can get health insurance and those who are underinsured are able to get better health insurance?
I'm sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what's wrong with those numbers? Byron York points out that the 3 million that signed up for Obamacare, most of them already had insurance. Most of them were kicked off their insurance and were forced to sign up for Obamacare. And of the 6 million that signed up for Medicaid, Byron points out, you didn't mention these yesterday, that most of them were already eligible for Medicaid.
Yeah,
that's not even new sign-ups, besides the fact that they're behind in the schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
Then they go to the grandfather clause.
Yeah, let me play that. Just 18 seconds. Obamacare. Go ahead.
We put in a grandfather clause in the original law saying that, in fact, you were supposed to be able to keep it. It obviously didn't cover everybody that we needed to, and that's why we changed it so that we further grandfathered in folks. And many people who thought originally when they got that cancellation notice they couldn't keep it are now.
It's in the past, but.
Okay.
So O'Reilly lets him get away with this. In the Federal Register, a lot of people listening will remember this. Federal Register, June 2010. They talk about changing that grandfather clause to narrow the definition of who gets grandfathered so that even the slightest change in the policy, like a change in the copay, eliminates the grandfather protection.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people are losing their policy. So O'Reilly just moves on. He says goes on to Benghazi, but he doesn't really respond to any of these.
Okay.
And in fairness to O'Reilly, he says, look, I have 10 minutes to ask my questions, and people will make up their own mind about whether Obama is answering them or not. But how many people drinking beer and eating brats know about this grandfather clause?
Yeah. I wonder, if you were doing the interview, would you do it that way, take 10 minutes, ask 7 different questions, or would you do
I would have followed up.
Yeah.
I would have followed up.
Just stay on Obamacare. Yeah.
I'm going through the real obvious responses here where O'Reilly just went on to the next topic.
Okay.
It was as if they had a deal. You can ask some tough questions, but you have to let me not answer them.
Okay.
So then he goes on to Benghazi.
Here we go.
Okay. Did he tell you, Secretary Panetta, it was a terrorist attack?
You know what he told me was that there was an attack on our compound.
He didn't use the word terror?
You know, in the heat of the moment, Bill, what folks are focused on is what's happening on the ground. Do we have eyes on it? How can we make sure our folks are secure?
I just want to get this on the record. Did he tell you it was a terror attack?
Bill, and what I'm answering your question. What he said to me was, we've got an attack on our compound. We don't know yet. We don't know yet who's doing it. Understand by definition, Bill, when somebody is attacking our compound, that's an act of terror, which is how I characterized it the day after it happened.
This is the part I don't understand, Marty, not to break your train of thought, but if we characterized it that way the day after, then why did we circulate this crazy rumor?
Okay, well, that's what O'Reilly didn't say, because Obama wants to have it both ways here. He goes back to the statement he made in the Rose Garden the day after. He made a very general statement about acts of terror, and he wants to rely on that to say he called it a terrorist attack. But O'Reilly could have pointed out that the next day with Steve Kroft, he had an opportunity, and he avoided calling it terror.
Yeah.
On The View, almost 2 weeks later, he wouldn't call it terror. You know, you have all the stuff about the video. So he had all these opportunities to call it an act of terrorism, and he never did. And we know from General Ham's testimony in front of the House Armed Services Committee that he told Panetta clearly it was a terror attack. And Panetta met with Obama right after that. So he's again, O'Reilly really didn't follow up on this. He said, I got to get to the IRS, which was next.
All right, and this is it.
What happened here is that you've got a 501c4 law that people think is confusing, that the folks did not know how to implement. Okay. Because it basically says,
so you're saying if you're involved, no corruption there at all? No,
that's not what I'm saying. That's actually
no. But I want to know what you're saying. You're the leader of the country. You're saying no corruption.
No.
None.
No. There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but
local
no
office.
Mass corruption.
Not even mass corruption. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Okay.
Listen, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I know.
Because there's not a smidgen of corruption. So here's a couple of smidgens O'Reilly could have mentioned. The big obvious one, Lois Lerner took the fifth.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more smidgens here. We have your friend, John Eastman, National Organization of Marriage. The confidential tax information and donor information was disclosed, clearly against the law. Confidential tax information on Koch Industries was disclosed. I mean, this is all simple stuff. According to Jay Sekulow, ACLJ attorney, their clients, they represent the Tea Party clients, they haven't even been interviewed.
Right.
And remember, we had the chief counsel, William Wilkins, who, the chief IRS counsel, who was identified as the supervisor who transmitted the guidelines of how to deal with the Tea Party.
Okay.
So there's many smidgens. You know, it's almost like Clinton's statement, not a single time.
Yeah.
Many times.
That's right. Not a single
Not a
time.
smidgen.
Not
you
a
know,
single.
many smidgens.
I did not have sex with that woman. Not a single time.
Not a single time.
Yeah, many times.
Yeah, it's almost now. There was a part 2 to this interview.
Yeah.
And I limited because of time what we can get into.
No. Your time is fine. I have it, and let me play it. And you got plenty of time. You got 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Actually, Bill, we address it explicitly all the time. I'll send you at least 10 speeches I've made since I've been president, talking about the importance of men taking responsibility for their children, talking about the importance of young people delaying gratification, talking about the importance of, when it comes to child rearing, paying child support, spending time with your kids, reading with them. So whether it's getting publicity or not is a whole different question.
Okay, so I didn't research whether or not he actually had those 10 speeches,
right.
But there's one glaring omission. He talks about reading to your kids, paying child support. He doesn't mention the M word, marriage.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing you learn from listening to this show, everybody should be able to recite this, is to escape from poverty, you need to graduate from high school, get a job, and get married before you have children.
Yeah.
So nowhere in this litany, you know, he begins by saying, why don't you and the First Lady have a program to talk about avoiding out-of-wedlock births? And he says we do. Well, that's not what you think of when you think of the First Lady. She's telling us how to eat.
Yeah.
So now this is very important because, and one of the reasons I selected this, we're talking this week about the disincentive to work in Obamacare. There's a disincentive to marriage in Obamacare, and the reason is that the subsidy eligibility is calculated on the joint income for married couples. it punishes married couples in the same way it punishes work, because married couples will lose their subsidy based on their joint income, while those living together don't.
I know. I saw this the other day. I read into this the other day. I said to this lady, I said, well, you're going to lose your subsidy because of your husband. She said, well, he's not really my husband, so we're fine.
Right. Well, there's some people that might consider divorce to maintain a subsidy.
Amazing. Now, there you go. Give up work and give up marriage.
Well, here's the interesting thing, because they're attacking everything Arthur Brooks says.
Yes, that's right.
Work,
conditions of happiness, right.
Work, family. They're definitely attacking faith. Just ask the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Yeah.
So they're attacking all of these traditional pillars of our civil society. No surprise, we know that.
Let me say something. Very good of you to do this, by the way. You would have made a hell of a lawyer as well as a great doctor, which you are. The Post had a story yesterday about the President Style section piece, talking to these boys, young men in Chicago and elsewhere. It's pretty soft. And when you think about what guys who are messing up need, they need that strong hand on the back of the neck, right? I mean, like my friend who told this kid, I'm paying for your college. You've wrecked the car twice. If you're interested in committing, chronic suicide, I love that expression, chronic suicide, continuing. Why am I paying this tuition? That's what the kind of talk you need to have with boys. And what the president seems to do is say, you need to have a vision. You need to have a sense of what you want to be. That's not straight talk. You know what I'm saying, Marty?
Right. Well, we, in this audience, many of us take that to mean that they're trying to deliberately create dependency. Yeah. Which is that's what they need for their existence. That's what the Democratic Party is doing.
That's great.
So none of this is an accident. Remember, Julia,
30 seconds.
Their model, she was unmarried. Yeah. She had a child out of wedlock. She was held up as a model for how you can live your whole life depending on government programs.
Beautiful job. Excellent job.
Thank you. I want one last thing, Bill.
Quick.
I want to tell everyone I have to go to work because there are many Obamacare subsidies depending on me.
Gotcha. Work.
Yes, work.
Thank you.